Happy holidays and Merry Christmas. You're watching Drakewing Gaming. Oh, one moment. And enjoy the video.
Hey guys and gals, Never here from Drakewing Gaming, and some of you on Twitter, the Gaming Dragon. Today I'm coming back at you with another Let's Play episode of Arches. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump right back in, shall we? Alarm chain, you were up, and let's go. I'm very curious to see what is about to happen. Okay, alright. The only thing that seemed to be getting back to normal were his dreams. Sometimes he'd still wake up whimpering or crying, thinking he was back in Echo. Devon had it far worse, waking up in a howling panic, yelling about guns, chains, and death. Those were the times when Cameron did his best to give comfort and support, at least as best as his patched-up, sore body could manage. But now, as time grows between him and what happened, Cameron feels like a part of him is missing, like he's not fully present. It's like pieces of him litter the town of his trauma. It felt like he was still there in a way, and when that feeling really started to set in, that's when it happened. A small pressure in his right ear started to develop. It was something that he was sure had to do with the hearing loss he'd experienced from the shotgun blast. It was irritating, and it felt bizarre. They had set up another appointment with Cameron's audiologist a few weeks from then. The hearing loss was likely permanent, but then something began to replace it, right in the middle of the afternoon. April 2020. Oh boy. Cameron starts working again that week. He wants to feel useful again, and because they're both working from home now, it seems like a reasonable idea. Devon didn't want him starting yet, of course, but Cameron wants that sense of normalcy to come back faster, and his shitty job had seemed like the perfect solution. Trying to work with mostly one paw does come as a bigger challenge than Cameron had expected, not realizing how much he used his non-dominant one. Typing is particularly slow, but he was getting better at managing it. Still, it makes him sluggish, and even though his boss is understanding, even telling him to just forward any rude customers her way, it still leaves him occasionally flustered in ways he isn't used to. After a rather harsh call that begins with "thank God, someone I can finally fucking understand," then ends with "you know what would have been faster?" Cameron waits for the answer. "Anything! This is the last time I buy some chick-ass... Ooh, I can't say that. Some phone made from some shit factory." Cameron rubs his eyes, wondering how different the interactions would be if they did face-to-face video calls. This phone was actually assembled in the States after Julian pledged... It's not the answer the man wants to hear. Cameron can tell before he even gets cut off. "Transfer me to your superior, please." "Of course, one moment." As Cameron reaches for the button to his boss's line, he hears the man muttering under his breath. "Didn't know they hired retards for customer service." Click. No big deal. He would get one or two of those every week, and according to his coworkers, it's gotten worse since the pandemic started. But why did that one hurt his feelings so badly, to the point that his eyes are welling up with tears? It's because they've been to hell and back, and that man has no idea. No idea. Uh-oh. Then his computer screen seems to move further away, like he's seeing a dolly zoom, like Vertigo. Pressure grows in his right ear, and he realizes that maybe that's what's causing the strange feeling of being off balance as the world tilts. But no, he's tripping again. It's a flashback. Just a flashback. No, it's brain damage, and you'll probably feel like this forever. Brian poisoned you. Cameron holds very still, positive he didn't think those thoughts just now. And you are fucking... yeah. Can't handle a literal customer stereotype? Just smash the keyboard and admit you can't work anymore. Cameron brings a paw to his right ear, where the voice came from. Is his headset still on, or... No, and you can feel me in your ear. What the fuck do you think that feeling was, you stupid shit? Absolutely worthless. After that, Cameron remembers very little except panic, followed by confusion. A ton of confusion. His thoughts make no sense. The voice that is definitely not his thoughts. Doesn't make sense, and now he doesn't understand where he is. The voice continues to encourage him to smash the keyboard, so he does, just to see if maybe it will break this bizarre half-dream. Devon, in his own study, hears this. After finding Cameron sobbing on the ground, surrounded by black plastic keycaps and bleeding from reopened stitches, a frantic Devon drives him to the hospital. Maybe I'll stop if you grab the wheel and turn into the median. For old time's sake. And he doesn't even need a fucking fan. Look, Mom, no fans. The voice snickers. He continues to laugh at him all the way to the psychiatric ward. October 2020. About 7 months after Echo and 6 months after his first episode, Cameron feels worse than he did right after Echo. The voice that had wormed its way into his damaged ear had disappeared after just a few days of antipsychotic treatment, but it returned again and again every few days. Whenever he feels rejection or guilt, whenever he gets into arguments with Devon, and really whenever it pleases, it makes itself known. It comes in a deep masculine voice, though sometimes it's Brian-like in how it taunts and laughs at him. Short asides that were sometimes mean, sometimes meaningless, and sometimes boring, all about the things Cameron would do and the people he would see. It feels like it's trying to remind Cameron things aren't okay as weeks continue to come and go without manageable but clearly present psychotic symptoms. He had worried his broken arm would stop him from being able to play music as well as he used to. Turns out he didn't have to worry about that at all, because he doesn't give a fuck anymore. Like a switch, his interests, his motivation, his want to do anything productive or useful seemed to just turn off. His thought process had been wrecked, and the disorganized thought during his episodes became present even when he wasn't having one. His mother said she needed meth because it fought those feelings that her psychosis brought on. It was brought on by the meth. A vicious cycle. And speaking of which, he finally got his diagnosis. Schizophrenia, likely induced by his genetics combined with drugging and trauma and Echo. Jesus Christ. Oh, God. Y'all cannot give Cameron, at least Cameron and Devon, a somewhat happy ending? You gotta give the poor boy schizophrenia? Look at what they did to my boy. They massacred my boy. Not that it really matters what induced it, because the problem is that he has it. There's no taking that back, after all. Propranolol, it's an odd-sounding drug, for restlessness from akathisia. Citalopram for depression, trazodone for sleep and depression, metformin for managing weight gain, guanfacine for tics, and PTSD, and clonazepam as needed for anxiety and panic attacks. He tried Xanax at first, but its taste immediately caused a panic attack so bad he couldn't even get it down. There's a familiar burn and tension in the right side of his neck, and his head tilts to the right before coming back up in a sort of twitching movement, twice. Tick, tick. Symptoms of schizophrenia are devastating enough, but so are the side effects of the antipsychotics to treat it. Side effects that are covered up by medications that cause even more side effects, which in turn are maybe more tolerable. The first antipsychotic he tried made him too tired, and his flat effect unnerved Devon, even though he never said it. So, he was finally switched after 4 months. This twitch had dysregulated his dopamine, according to his last psychiatrist, and this in turn meant that the motor and vocal tics he once thought were gone are now back. But they weren't just back, they got to come back with a vengeance, to the point that when he got especially emotional, his neck and sometimes his body would go into an uncontrollable twitching fit. At least back when he was a kid, he can control it to some degree, or at the very least disguise it. His vocal tics would come up at the worst moments, and talking to anyone other than Devon would result in awful humiliations that sometimes even triggered psychosis again. It makes him feel like some kind of freak show. But when a vocal tic involving his diaphragm disappeared, one that he'd never had before, Cameron really had to begin to despair. It would force him to exhale for 10 to 15 seconds before holding it until he nearly blacked out. Then it would release and he would gasp in air again, vision coming back through blurry tears only for it to happen half a dozen more times in agonizing waves. It was so distressing that each time it happened it triggered an episode, and he'd be left with so many tics happening at once that even Devon couldn't communicate with him. The familiar tightening in his abdomen signaling the approach of another tic was enough to make him whine and cry in dread. God, these poor guys. These poor boys. All this because of that damn pill that was supposed to help him. 3 or 4 of those vocal episodes every day for a week, and Devon finally had enough and found a different psychiatrist. This changed everything, and Cameron found himself trusting her far more than he ever did his first psychiatrist. She immediately switched him to another antipsychotic, one that she said would help his tics, too. Still, when Cameron had been readying himself to take his first dose, he broke down and he had cried like a child. He even begged Devon not to make him take it, which just made the whole situation so much worse. What if it caused more problems to show up? What if it made him worse? Cameron read about all the horrible lifelong side effects that antipsychotics can cause. Movement disorders like Tourette's syndrome that can stick around even if you stop the meds. All from these little pills wreaking havoc on the synapses of his brain, changing him forever. More poison, more brain damage. The pressure pulses in his right ear and Cameron rubs at it vigorously. You're the brain damage, asshole. Fuck you. You always blame everyone else for your problems, huh? Why don't you take the whole bottle, pathetic faggot? Think you could just talk to me like that, you schizo fuck? Remembering the management techniques his therapist taught him, Cameron takes a deep breath. Okay, time to take my medication. It's been a few weeks now, and my tics have decreased by over half, and I haven't had a breathing tic in 4 days. I feel like this is a good progress. What you think is... Positive symptoms have decreased by maybe 30% over the last week? Good progress. I just hope my negative symptoms improve as well. That's my next goal, once I reach stability. His thoughts are his own again. That makes Cameron feel at least a little bit better, knowing that some things are coming easier. But only a little, because while he knows he's taken plenty of steps forward, it seems like he always ends up back where he started as soon as something goes wrong. He begins opening his pill organizer and pulls out the most important one. At least his psychiatrist had been right, and for once, Cameron can at least see a road to the new him. Despite tolerating ziprosidone much better than the last antipsychotic, it still causes the same side effects that make him need to take all the other meds. At least it's making his tics better. Tick, tick, tick. Though he doubts they will ever truly go away without being on medication. Devastating on its own, but still controllable, manageable with time. He has to believe that. The sound of pills rattling against plastic seems way louder than it should, and Cameron hears Devon shift in his study. Oh, you're taking them now? Just a second. That was fast, Cameron mutters under his breath, feeling just a little resentful knowing that Devon had probably been listening in on his thinking out loud technique. Cameron sighs and picks up the pill again, staring at it closely, as if able to see its molecular structure, engineered to block the dopamine receptors in his brain. The root cause of most psychoses, at least at the molecular level. It's more complicated than that. It always is. Devon comes in, with just his underwear on. A year ago, it would have been a sight that Cameron would have appreciated. He probably would have put his arms around him and rubbed his face into his chest like he used to. But his sex drive was killed months ago, either from meds or from one of the many symptoms of schizophrenia, and it's just another reminder that he's not who he used to be. While sex is the last thing on his mind, Cameron knows it's important in their relationship. He occasionally would force himself to do it and pretend to enjoy it, but everything aches now, and in the end he'd find himself staring at the ceiling. Devon, of course, noticed and eventually suggested they wait until Cameron felt better, until he actually wanted it himself, which only made Cameron feel worse. Devon's libido is stronger than Cameron's ever was, so he knows it must be sexually frustrating for the bear. But right now, Devon is just standing there smiling pleasantly as he watches Cameron. Making sure you take your poison. He wants your brain damaged more than it already is. A jolt of fear. A dip into the nightmare of unreality. Cameron feels angry at how easily the voice slipped into his thoughts again. Useful poison. Cameron winces at the crazy coming out of his mouth. Sorry, I'm just thinking out loud, if that's what you're wondering. Okay, it's good that you're doing that. Remember, it does seem to act up right before you take your medication, so don't worry about it too much. Yeah, you know I don't need you to watch me anymore. It's quiet as Cameron swallows the pill, angling himself so that Devon can see. Then he follows it with the rest of the 5 or so pills he holds in his paw. Cameron finishes swallowing those, knowing that in an hour he won't be able to keep his eyes open, cutting short the time he would have spent with Devon. They don't really go out anymore. Right, or do you still not trust me? No, I agree with you, but we also agreed I'd do it for at least a year, just in case... Even if you said you were fine, remember? Cameron hates the fact that he's right. Alright, y'all, I'm actually going to pause it right there. Thank y'all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and check out our Patreon if you can. It always helps. Before I go, I'm going to give a quick shout out to our lovely bronze tier patrons. Thank y'all if I do for the channel. We greatly appreciate your support. Thank you to our silver tier patron, Cade Silverman. Thank you going above and beyond. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks to our 3 gold tier patrons, Zeke, Toby, and Blue Wolf Alpha. Y'all are awesome. We love you. Thank you for subbing to Ultimate Tier. Anyway, if y'all want to get your names in the credits, get access to all of our Not Safe for Work content as little as $5. If y'all don't want to donate to our Patreon, you can donate using Super Thanks on YouTube. Anyway, I love you all, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye!